Hello everyone, this is RCK. I hope you're having a great day today. Um, Today we're going to be going over our next national overview, which will be for EA Xibalba. They're a lot of fun. For this video, we're going to cover the units, the commanders, the sites. We will also cover some research goals on top of all the national spells. For the second video, you guys know I come out with expansion videos during that time. This will probably be the next video that comes out, will be the expansion video, and we will go over Xibalban expansion, ideas about it, different ways that you can do it, and on top of that, we will also go over pretender designs in that video. I can go ahead and give a shout out to Boz. I talked to him a good bit, got some ideas, bounced some ideas off of him. I will leave a link in the description below for his channel. He's a really cool guy. I know he's posted a few Dominions things up. Hopefully he will get back to posting a little bit more, of course. It's always good to have more Dominions YouTubers out there. So let's go ahead and start it off. Raise swarms of cheap, flying, stealthy cave dwellers. We prefer a heat scale of 1. We get extra gold and resources in cave forts, which is interesting. Um, we have a lot of light infantry and scorpions, which is kind of cool. Our magic is death, blood, fire, and a little bit of air and nature. We have average priests. I believe we can get up to holy 2s recruitable, and we can also do blood sacrifice to really kind of push our dominion if we want to. We have standard forts, which is good. As far as our magic sites go, to start us off, we have a Cavern of the Sun. This is going to give us 3 fire gems and then 1 earth gem per turn. Whereas the other site that we have is a House of Knives, and this is going to be giving us 2 death gems per turn. So altogether we have a 6 gem cap, so not too bad. Having the fire income is pretty good. Earth is okay, even though we don't have as great access to it. I think we can get Earth 2, so that might be able to put us up to Earth 3 if I remember correctly, but I'll have to look again, of course. Having a death is always good, a nice death income in the beginning. So we'll go ahead and start looking at the units here. And the first 2 units, you can kind of group them together. These are going to be the scorpions. You have a large scorpion and a giant scorpion. Yes, we do have a third scorpion too, but that one's kind of much different than these 2. 1 gold, 1 research, 2 recruitment points. Very, very cheap. They have high morale. They're magical beings, so keep that in mind. You might not be able to use them on certain commanders. So be sure that you know that these guys are magical beings. They are stealthy, which is quite interesting, but they are undisciplined. They have very, very low stats. 5 defense skill, 8 attack skill, 1 protection, 3 magical resistance. These guys are meant to be chaffed. They're meant to be thrown away. Don't be surprised when you lose a whole lot of these. They are just 1 gold and 1 resource, so don't forget that. Their sting, it only deals 1 pierce damage, but they do have a weak poison added onto that, so it could be handy. Usually enough, these the large scorpions are fairly bad. They're more for chaff. They're more to take arrows. As a distraction, you want the indie units to attack them as your Zots and Bats. They fly behind the enemy and hit the commanders. Next, we have a giant scorpion. 5 gold, so yes, definitely a large increase from the other scorpion. Just being from 1 gold to 5 gold, but still 1 resource and 2 recruitment points, so still relatively cheap. At this point, now that you have a 5 pierce damage attack, you're going to be able to deal damage to light infantry, normally enough. And on top of that, yes, it's still going to be giving poison damage, so you're going to be able to do a little bit of damage as long as these guys are able to connect to the enemy. They are still undisciplined. It's good and bad. They are still magical beings, so you have to keep that in mind. And they are stealthy, so could be used in some stealth raids, but honestly enough, just due to your bats having so much flying mobility, you really wouldn't want to stealth these guys. I mean, you can use them for sure, but they could run into some difficulties depending on what kind of province defense that you're actually fighting. So they're pretty cool. Lastly, I'll go over the third scorpion that you have here, and you have the Xibalban scorpion. Now, these guys are limited recruitment. I believe you can only make 5 of these guys. I will just go ahead and look. No, you can make 10 a month. You can make 10 of these guys every month. They're quite interesting unit, 15 gold, so they've tripled in cost from the Scorpion before, but it's still 1 resource, and you're only able to make 10 of these guys a turn. 16 hit points, size 3 units with a protection of 12. They're much tougher than the previous units are. Still low magical resistance. I mean, honestly enough, having 3 of the other Scorpions more than likely probably be better than having a Xibalban Scorpion. But these guys do have a good chance of dealing a good bit of damage or dishing out a lot more damage. And they have Death Poison, which is just an extra effect onto when they hit the unit. So they'd be able to actually kill units. But when you're looking at the Scorpions really aren't there as a purpose to kill units. They're there just to serve a purpose of chaff. So it's really up to you if or how you decide to do that. Let me go back over to this part. And that's just the final Scorpion I wanted to go over. And next we'll start looking at your warrior line. First off, we have a Xibalban warrior, 8 gold, 1 resource, 6 recruitment point cost. They are cold-blooded. Make sure you keep that in mind. Usually enough when you're doing this, you probably want to take heat 3, just in the cases of, yes, it is going to drop your income down by 10%, but you won't be as vulnerable during the winter time as you would otherwise. So, you definitely do not want to fight in cold 3 as this nation, because your guys are going to fatigue out and they're going to fall asleep, and it's just going to be a very, very bad day for you. These units are stealthy, 40 stealthy, not too bad. Definitely could use these as a raiding force. Stone Lance dealing 9 pierce damage. Still, they're only really going to be affecting light infantry. Even heavy infantry, you're definitely not going to want to throw these guys against Ulm. Ulm is just going to rip these guys apart. Flying, of course, all your bats have flying because they have wings. But they're blind. So quite interesting there. Just because your bats, they just can't see well, so it's pretty cool. Defense skill and attack skill 10 and 9, very, very average as far as that goes. Magical resistance of 11, not too bad. Protection 0, like I said, these guys are going to die in droves, and it's going to be tough to save them. Yes, you could do some enchantment spells like Mass Protection or alteration spells like Mass Protection or Iron Warriors. Yeah, you could. But is it really worth it in the end? Maybe in the late game, but early on, these guys are still going to be protection 0 for a large portion of the game. But they do have map move 20, so they are very, very mobile, but they are very, very weak. At least these Xibalban warrior types right here. Next, we have a separate kind of Xibalban warrior, and yes, both of these can be recruited in forests. I did not say that before I started on the other warrior there. This is your Obsidian Club warrior. Yes, it's going to say Xibalban warrior, but this is the one that has a Obsidian Club versus a spear, and it just deals so much more damage. Yeah, they only have a strength of 7. This one does have attack skill of 10 and defense skill of 10, so not too bad. Protection is still at 0, but being able to deal 15 damage and then have a slash and blunt damage attack on top of that is going to be very, very good. These guys are going to go through most armor, and I feel like these guys will do very, very well. I think they're much better than the Stone Lances, so quite interesting. They still have I believe all your Zots actually have a patrol bonus of -1. So they're not the best as far as patrolling goes. You probably can find much better options, of course. But I guess if you have these guys amassed and you're not in a war, you might as well do it. So not too much to say about the 2 warrior types there, but I do feel like the Obsidian Club warrior type is much better than the Stone Lance warrior type. Next we have a Xibalban Xibalban Dart Thrower. Now, honestly enough, I guess people can find a reason to use these guys. I'm not saying that, oh, they're completely unusable, but honestly enough, I'll go a game and I'll never make these guys. Because, a range 7 Obsidian Dart that deals 7 pierce damage, is that really needed? Your units are protection 0 anyway. He only has 4 ammunition, so even with that, I mean, yes, he's going to be going into battle with a 13 damage mace, but it's really not that great. So honestly enough, at the end of the day, you can probably are much better off going with the Xibalba Warriors. Go ahead and get them flying, get the map blanketed with them, so you can get as much what's the word that I'm looking for? Coverage, I guess. Um, more you're going to cover more surface area on the enemy army, so you're going to be able to deal damage faster, ultimately ending the battle faster. And these guys are just not going to be able to do that. So honestly enough, I really don't like these units here. I really don't see you making them. I mean, I'm sure you can for fun. You might have a few reasons why, very certain scenarios where you might want a dart thrower. But other than that, I mean, that's not something I would use. Next, we'll go on to the next unit here, which is a Xibalban Guard. With using these guys, 10 gold, 4 resources, 12 recruitment points. I feel like, yes, they still have a club sword here, dealing 15 damage, but they do go up to protection of 8. They have Michelin armor now. They have a small amount of armor on them. These guys can be handy, yes. I feel like if you want to use these guys, especially in expansion and things like that, or even use them in your armies, you'd be going scales at that point. I feel like going the other Xibalban warrior that has the club sword. I mean, they're dealing the same amount of damage and they have 0 protection compared to 8. I mean, how many units can just rip through 8 protection? Let's think about that. So I mean, it's really what you want at that point. I'm not going to tell you one's better than the other. I mean, well, technically, a Xibalban Guard is better than the Xibalban Warrior just due to the fact that they have more protection. But then you have to also account for the cost and other things as such that will go into that unit. So it's quite interesting to think about. But this unit also has a bodyguard tag, bodyguard of 2. That's something that the other units haven't had yet. Everything else, the others of Xibalban warriors and dart throwers have had. So not too bad. Attack skill has gone up to 11. Strength is still at 7. Protection is 8, which I already spoke about. So these guys are alright. As far as the Zots go, I mean, I like these Zots a lot more than I like Kalem troops, just due to the fact of them being size 2, whereas most of Kalem's forces are size 3. So you'll be able to fit 3 Zots or 3 Xibalban warriors or 3 Zots to a square, whereas for Kalem you're only able to fit 2 per square since they're size 3, which is quite interesting. As far as the final unit for this lineup here, we have the Sun Guide, 18 gold, 15 resources, 24 recruitment points, protection of 13, so definitely a large increase in protection. They have a Shard Blade, which is a magical dealing weapon that has slash damage and deals up to 19 damage, which is your sacred, as far as your recruitable sacred. It's very, actually a pretty decent unit here. You have fire resistance on it as well. Attack skill of 13 already, so that is very nice. Defense skill still 10 at average. Strength is 8, so 1 more than your other Xibalban warriors. Magical resistance of 12 is pretty good. At morale 13. Usually enough you have to worry about your troops routing a lot. If we go back and look, morale 9, 9, 9. Assaulting Guard do have 11. But 13 is very nice compared to the rest of your units. Hit points of 9, kind of lower than the average there, but it's okay. You have the Armor of the Sun. That's what's giving you all this protection here. You still don't have a shield, and you still don't have a helmet, so you're still going to take damage from enemy fire or mostly a lot of enemy archers and things like that. But having 13 protection is much nicer. Having Sacred, you'll put your Bless on them. Could come in handy very much. So very nice unit you have here, especially in the EA age. You have a lot of units or a lot of nations that you're going to want to have magical weapons against, like Therados, like Ubar, things like that. So having the magical weapons on the unit already and not having to put it on your Bless is quite handy. So that's pretty cool, a nice little feature for you to have, of course. And with that, the units are over with. So we'll go ahead and start looking at the commanders here. I will try my best to pronounce these. I know I'm not the best at naming or names, but I will try my best. First, we have a Batab. You can recruit these in all your forest. A 40 gold commander with 40 leadership. Definitely could do much better as far as leadership wise, but as a cheap commander that you can make in any forest that is stealthy, they are basically can also be a scout too, a flying scout at that rate, so they're very very good. So these do have their uses, especially in the early game when you're expanding. Say you expand to a forest, say you're making like 10 or so zots out of the forest, you can also throw in a commander. So you're able to move those the turn they're made to reinforce an army that you're expanding with the turn after that. And at that point, you might have enough of them to like keep them going back and forth to different provinces because they're flying. So you'll be able to continuously reinforce the army while not having to move back with the army, which is quite interesting. And you'll be able to do that for quite a distance due to the fact that they are flying. So that's pretty cool there. Other than that, this is your average 40 leadership commander. They are cold-blooded, stealthy, flying like the rest of your units are. Next, we have the Xibalba Scorpion Trainer. Quite interesting here. 60 gold unit, 1 resource, 1 recruitment point. A morale of 9, a leadership of 40, but a magical leadership of 80. So this is a guy you're going to want to bring all your scorpions with whenever you make them to expand with. He does have Beastmaster 3. So animals that have increased morale when the commander animals have increased morale when commanded by a Beastmaster. So all your scorpions are going to get +3 morale. So that's going to be very, very nice for you to have. Other than that, this is just another basic commander, but in this case, he's the one that can carry the scorpions around. So pretty good there. We have a Aja. This is going to be your priest, just a priest level 1, a stealthy priest at that point. So you can do some stealthy preaching. Leadership of 80, so it's already better than the other unit or other commander that you had previously. Not the Scorpion trainer, but the other one before that. But yes, this is going to be significantly more expensive. I think the other commander was 40, and now this is over 2 times the cost of that, so it's quite a bit more expensive. Next, we have the Ajak Kanik, and this is going to be your Holy 2 that you are able to recruit, 170 gold. 120 leadership, that's the good part of this, so most units are going to be able to get a morale bonus, and that morale bonus is going to be +2, which isn't too bad. But they are old age. They are 107, and they are usually get old around 100. But just having a 120 leadership commander that you're able to use for your low morale troops is always very, very nice. Next, we have the Anakam, and it's going to be a Holy Blood Mage. Quite interesting here, 70 gold. As far as the morale goes, or not morale, but as far as the upkeep goes, only 28 gold a year, so you'll take that and divide that by 12. So it's like 2 point something per turn. Not too bad. Leadership of 10, magical leadership of 15, so these guys can kind of lead around small scorpion armies or something along those lines if you needed them to, or just move troops around. As far as that goes, having a Blood 1 recruitable was nice, but honestly enough, I don't like these all that much. Just due to the fact of this, they cause 2 unrest per turn. Yes, they are a Blood Searcher, which isn't too bad, and they have minus inspirational, which doesn't matter. You're not going to lead troops. If you were going to do anything, you just move them around if you needed to move a little bit left. But causing 2 unrest per turn for each one of these units is a pretty big deal, because what you're going to be wanting to do with these guys anyway is you're going to be blood hunting with them, and just having that really, really large amount of unrest caused by that is really, really unfortunate. It's going to really, really hinder the amount of blood slaves this mage is able to get. Not only that, you're going to have to worry about if you leave these guys researching somewhere. Usually enough, once you hit 100 unrest, you're not able to make units anymore. So that could be a big problem too. And if you're using the unrest, or if you're patrolling the unrest down, you're probably killing a lot of population at the same time. Yes, this unit here has its upsides, but also has its downsides. So honestly enough, I don't like making this unit. But if you need a, well, you don't have to. Never mind. Discard that. So next we have the Chillin. This also can be recruited in caves, which is quite interesting. 100 gold, priest 1 level, death 1, earth 1. Not too bad. They are also a fortune teller, which is kind of cool. It's just nice to have that tag on some units. These guys, as far as these go, yeah, you're gonna want to go search earth. Yeah, you want to go search death, of course, and priest levels while you're at it. But honestly enough, I still wouldn't use these units as your research monkeys in a way. 40 gold a year, not too bad. But as far as our researchers go, I would definitely want to use the Akin here. Now this is 110 gold. It is a priest. It's a fire 1, but they have a random here of getting earth, death, and blood. All the earths and deaths you can use as research, and all the bloods you can send them out to blood hunt, of course. So very good here. 44 gold a year, not too bad. 9 research points, whereas the other one was 9 research points as well. But just due to the fact that you're able to get blood mages on top of that, or some of your randoms could be blood mages, really just ups the value of that unit, I believe. So quite interesting there. But I do like these as your researchers. They also have a decent bit of morale or leadership here. So if you needed to move troops, if you needed to raid or use that to do some counter raiding, they're there for that. Next we have the Its, and this is going to be a blood 1, death 1, and with a random, so you can random blood, death, air, or earth. So quite interesting. They're also a blood searcher. As far as your blood searchers go, this is your main blood searcher here. You're not going to find a unit better than that. Yes, the other units you have are cheaper. You're probably able to mass them out a lot more. These will cost you a lot more as far as upkeep wise too, up 96 gold. But I mean, you'll be able to get blood 2s that have a blood searcher tag on them, which is going to be very, very nice for you to have. Not only that, it only takes 1 turn for them to be recruited, and they only cost 120 gold. So very, very nice to have here. But overall, you wouldn't want to have these guys as your research monkeys at home, just due to the fact of how much more or how much upkeep that they do have. On top of that, I mean, all your blood 2s are going to be very, very useful. All of your death 2s are going to be very, very useful, especially for combat mages like Horde Skeleton casters and such. Air 1s, you can use them as site searchers. Not the end of the world, as long as well as the Earth 1s. You can also use them as site searchers too. Yes, there are a few things that you could probably do with the Earth 1s, but quite interesting here. But yeah, as far as these units go, I feel like these units are going to be the very, very good blood searchers for you. And don't forget that your research monkeys, the blood ones anyway, you want to make sure to start sending them out, do some blood hunting. And the ones you leave at home, they can be casting a few of your national spells, of course, which we will go over in a little bit. Up next, on our commander line here, we have the Camazotz. 160 gold. There are 2 turns to recruit, but they're recruit anywhere, which is quite interesting. So any castle can recruit these units. Other than that, they are not sacred, so they're going to be rather costly for you, 128 gold a year. But they're going to be Def 2, so all of them are Horde Skeleton casters. They're also all blood, so they can all join in Sabbaths. They're also blood searchers, but honestly enough, I mean, yeah, you could use you guys as blood hunters, but I mean, I wouldn't, since you have the other units available to you. But these guys can also go up to Death 3. They can go to Blood 2, and they can also have a Air or Earth cross path to them, which is quite interesting. So still very, very valuable combat mages here. These are not guys you want to leave around sitting at home. You definitely want to, if you're going to make these units, you definitely want to use them on the battlefield. Just due to the fact of how easily they can cast Horde Skeletons. I mean, yes, it's a Def 2 spell, but I mean, if they're Def 3, I mean, it's going to be very, very nice. And I mean, a lot of people don't think that, but I mean, summoning things to the battlefield can tip the scales in your favor. even if it's summoning imps or summoning some skeletons. I mean, that can definitely tip things in your favor and win the battle at the end of the day. So quite interesting unit here. I think they're pretty cool. Next you have the Akin Kan Eek. Fire 2, Earth 1, Death 1 is also a Holy 2, which is nice. When you'll have the cross paths of Earth, Death, and Blood. So honestly enough, any blood cross path that you have, you can use them join into a Sabbath, and that will make you a Holy 3. And these guys are 1 turn to recruit. They are old when you recruit them, so keep that in mind. They might cure some diseases, but being a blood nation, it shouldn't be too bad for you. They have fire resist, and they're also sacred. And the gold costs very, very expensive units here, but I mean, you are getting a 5-path mage with 2 holy, so pretty nice. 50 leadership definitely could be a lot better, but it's fine. So quite interesting unit here. I mean, with this unit here, well, along with the other ones, but I mean, you'll have the fire death cross path, so you'll be able to make a fire booster go up to fire 3. If you needed to. I think you have to be fire 4 to do the next booster after that, so you might get stuck there. Next we'll go over a really, really cool unit. One I like a whole lot for Xibalba, and it's the Aniki. This is going to be a very, very expensive unit. This reminds me of the Eagle Kings for Calum. 565 gold, 1 resource, and it takes 2 turns to recruit. And you'll get off the bat a Death 3, a Nature 1, Blood 3, Holy 2 with random paths. Being 100% path to get either Blood, Nature, Death, or Fire. And then 10% chance random to get Fire, Death, Nature, or Blood. I know I just said those one way and said them the other way. But on top of that, yes, you do have to keep in mind they will cause unrest. But they are Dominion monster summoners, so every turn they'll be summoning beast bats while they're researching or going around site searching or doing whatever you want them to do, of course, or in armies. So it's a way to get a lot of free beast bats. Guess you can count the initial cost and then the upkeep cost for the unit, which is probably very high. But you'll be able to get a lot of free sacreds. So really, really cool. He's also a demon. It's interesting. I forgot about that. Has a couple of attacks here. Not too bad. Leadership 80. It's okay, but undead leadership of 145 and then a magical leadership of 30. Not too bad. But yeah, these are going to be very, very powerful mages for you, along with being monster summoners every turn in your dominion. Higher dominion, I think you'll get more monsters or more beast bats, and you'll just keep summoning beast bats as long as they're in your dominion, which is pretty cool. So that closes up the commanders and units and sites as far as this go, and we will head over to the mod inspector, and we'll go over the national spells for the nation. Let's see if I can do this right. There we go. Let me take a sip of water real fast before we get started on this. Alright guys, first off here we have Summon Jaguars and Conjuration level 3. It's going to cost 2 Nature, 1 Priest level, and it's going to, well, the path required is that, and then the cost is going to be actually 25 gold, but it's going to make you 17 Sacred Jaguars, which is actually pretty good. They have 2 attacks, you'll be able to put your Bless on them, quite interesting. If you needed to use your nature gems for something, if you weren't summoning higher level nature or anything like that, these guys are definitely something you could look into. Next we have Bind Beast Bats, which is a pretty cool spell here. For 8 slaves you can make 3 Beast Bats, and they're also a sacred unit that you have. A lot of these, Mikland also has a lot of these national spells, so it's quite interesting. But I mean, strength 12, attack skill of 11, defense skill of 3, 19 hit points. Yes, they have protection of 4, but it's not too bad. These are going to be very, very killy units. They have dark vision. They're blind, I think. This says blind fighter. I think they're blind. So pretty cool unit here. A demon. They're sacred, like I said. So they'll take a very, very nice bless or whatever you make for them. And you'll be able to have a whole lot of these guys too. And I believe actually they have a poison attack. Yeah, they have venomous fangs, which is a poison. Or it's kind of like the scorpions. When they deal damage, they're also going to deal poison damage. So that's pretty cool. Next we have Bind Jaguar Fiends, which will give you Ocelotls. They are very, very killy units. Strength of 16. They bite and 2 claw attacks. They are also sacred units, so you're able to put whatever bless you have on them. Normally enough, as far as the mid game goes, early game you're going to have Zots. You might have a few beast bats, but as far as going into the mid to late game, these are definitely going to be what you want in your armies. These guys are going to be what the other nations are going to fear from you. 33 hit points. They have so many hit points, and they are flying too. So pretty cool unit here. You're definitely going to want to make these. At Blood 7, you have a Contact Anarchy. Now this is pretty much the same thing that you can make at your capital. But actually enough, your capital one has more possible paths, and also starts off with more paths. If you remember, the recruitable one was a Death 3, Nature 1, Blood 3, Holy 2, that had 2 randoms. One was 100% and the other one was 10%, I think. Actually, I can go check just to be sure. Let's see. Yeah, it was a 100% and a 10% chance. So the recruitable one is definitely a lot better than the summable one, but is still a spell you have nonetheless, so we will look at it. Next we have Reign of Jaguars, and it also has this plus beside it here, meaning that for every spell over that, it will give you an extra Ocelotl for it. And just looking at the math here on this, you get, just say if you just had the Blood 6 Fire 2 path, you'll get 14 for 40 gems. So that's roughly around 5.3 cost for each Ocelotl that you make. So, and then as the Bind Jaguar Fiends, that's going to be 3 for 16. No, I'm sorry. It's 5.3 for the Bind Jaguar Fiend. So 16 divided by 3 is going to be 5.3. Whereas the Reign of Jaguars is going to be 14 divided by, or 40 divided by 14. So it's going to leave you at 2.8. So you're definitely getting a much discounted cost if you're able to do Reign of Jaguars. Pretty good. But as far as the Bind Jaguars, you're able to do that more than likely with a lot more commanders at one time than you are Reign of Jaguars, so you have to keep that in mind. But yeah, if you'll do Reign of Jaguars, you'll get a much, much more discounted cost for the Ocelotls. Next we have a really, really interesting spell here. I've never actually seen it cast before. It's called Theft of the Sun. I'm sure some people's probably done it in meme games, but as far as I remember, I've never been in a game that someone's cast it. It requires a Death 6, 3 Fire commander or a mage, and then as far as the gem cost for it is 70 Death Gems. It grants you 10 Fire Gems and 5 Astral Pearls each month. Worldwide Darkness. Income, minus 30%. Resources, minus 30%. So, it's basically like a discount Utter Darkness, but instead of minus 90%, it's minus 30%. And this actually gives you 15 gems a turn, which is pretty cool. I like this spell a lot more. Because I feel like when it comes to Utter Darkness and things like that, the only people that want to cast that spell are nations like Ermor, Lemuria, whereas Theft of the Sun, I would see more Death nations wanting to cast other than those two. Just having 15 gems a turn, and minus 30% income. Yeah, that sucks, but it's not terrible like Utter Darkness. And then Worldwide Darkness is also very, very nice for you because you have so many units that are blind or can have night vision and stuff. So a pretty interesting spell here. You do have to have a site required to cast it. You need the Cavern of the Sun, so only you can cast it. So kind of interesting. Next, you have a Sacred Scorpion that you can summon. Uh, it requires the Earth Death paths that we went over, and yes, you will have a lot of these paths for commanders. The unit itself, or the spell itself, requires 2 Earth Gems, which is kind of, it's kind of But you do get a 48 hit point Sacred Scorpion that has 17 protection, has Dark Vision, poison resistance, has the Scorpion Tail and the Claw, which I'm sure will deal a large amount of damage, and it does the death damage just like the other one does. But this is a size 5 unit, so this is a very, very large one. And this is at Conjuration 3. But I mean, they do get your bless on them, so they could be something you want to do with your Earth Gems. Definitely a possibility. 48 hit points is quite a lot to have. So we'll go ahead and look at the other spells we have here that are not summons or globals. So, well, we do have 2 more summons, but we'll go over those at the very, very end. First, we have a Blood 2 spell, being Break the First Soul. It's actually a pretty good spell for a Blood 1 to cast since it doesn't require you to have a Blood Slave. It can cause afflictions, being disease, which eventually will kill a unit for sure, but what it also does is going to make units bleed. So they're going to be using health drastically throughout the battle. So quite a interesting spell, very nice for you to have. Casting time of 125%, not too bad, but fatigue cost of 20. I mean, if you have a Blood 2 or a Blood 3 and they're just casting Break the First Soul, they might be able to deal a decent amount of damage while also being fatigue neutral, so you'll be able to keep continuously cast it. So something you can keep in mind, always something you have access to if you need to use your Blood 1s in battle. Next, you have Break the Second Soul. Instead of causing bleed or causing affliction or causing disease, this will cause a limp, which is quite interesting. It definitely could be something used against high mobility troops or thugs and things like that, to really just kind of hinder their movement. It will also decrease their stats a little bit, which is interesting, but just something a Earth 1 can cast. Next, these have changed to Thaumaturgy instead of Blood. Next, you have Break the Third Soul. Now, this is just going to be a spell that's going to cause fatigue if it is successfully cast on the opponent. So it says fatigue plus 5 divided by level. So it's going to be 20. Well, if you cast it with a level 1 air mage, it's going to be 25 because it's going to be the base 20 and then 5 divided by 1, which will be 5. So you'll have 25. It'll add 25 for every time. So that actually might be a more useful anti-thug spell to cast, actually, which is quite interesting to think about, because if you're able to fatigue them out, they'll definitely be in trouble. Next, we have Break the Fourth Soul, which actually is, it's okay. Causes Affliction Curse, which is not too bad. So it could be something your devs cast, but if you're a death mage, especially a death 2 mage, you want to be casting Horde Skeletons and things like that instead. So not as good as the other Break the Souls, but it has its use as well. So like, I'm not saying, oh, this is a terrible spell, don't cast it. I mean, it's something you can definitely still cast, but I don't think it's as good as Break the First Soul. That's just kind of what I'm saying. Next, we have a Blood 3 spell. It's going to be Gift of the First Soul, which grants regeneration at 10 to the person casting the spell, which is quite interesting. You'll be able to give your Sabbath communions regeneration on top of other things. So pretty interesting spell here. Kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say, well, it is kind of the opposite of Break the First Soul, where gift is you gain or regenerate health, whereas break is you're bleeding out. So quite interesting. Gift of the Second Soul. These are area effects, so they can cast them on people, not just themselves. So grants blunt resistance. It's okay. You can definitely, if you're wanting to cast it on yourself, is it temper flesh or temper armor? No, it might be temper flesh. Whereas you get blunt, pierce, and slash resistance. So Earth 1 could be doing better things with that, of course. We have Gift of the Third Soul, which is going to give Revig +2. But like I said, this is also something that you can add to your Sabbath Communion. So quite interesting spell here. Give everyone Revig +2. Next we have Break the Fourth Soul, which will grant luck. Actually, this is not too bad due to the fact of you not being an Astral Nation, you don't have access to it. So quite interesting little spells here. They all have their time and place for certain things, of course. Next we have our last two summons here for the national overview. The first one is going to be Summon Balaam. Now this is going to summon, or there's 4 different kinds, north, east, south, and west. Requires a 4 nature to cast while having 60 nature gems, but you'll be having a very, very large size 4 jaguar that has a changed shape, and they can change into a Zot, and we will look at them in a moment. But the paths that they will have is going to be Air 2, Nature 4, Blood 2, Holy 3. So quite interesting. Not too bad. I kind of like these units here. I think they're kind of cool. I think having like very large paths added to your communions or added to your armies in general will come in very, very handy for you. This is just the Zot version when it changes its shape. And I will look at the other ones, of course. That was the Balaam of the North. Next, this is the one of the East. So we'll have a Water 2, Nature 4, Death or Blood 2, Holy 3. And that is the same version for the Zot version of it. Next, we will look at the one of the South, and this is going to have the Fire random to it. So Fire 2, Nature 4, Blood 2, Holy 3. And there's the Zot version. And then finally, we have the Balaam of the West, which is the Death version. This is going to be Death 2, Nature 4, Blood 2, Holy 3. And there is the Zot version of that. So quite interesting units here. Definitely will help you add to your magic diversity in a way. By that point, since you're having to cast a Nature 4 spell, you probably already have a fairly decent nature diversity in your nation anyway. But I mean, maybe you're able to boost up to 4, and then at this point, these level 4 nature mages will help you boost past that, while also giving you random that you wouldn't normally have, like Air 2s, Water 2s, and Fire 2s, which is quite well. You can easily get Fire 2s. I take that back, but Air and Water you won't as easily get. Next we have the Shaman Chak, and quite interesting unit here. I like the way they look. This is a Air 4, Water 3, Holy 3. So very, very powerful mage here. They also cast a Natural Storm every time, at the beginning of every battle, which is pretty cool. The path required to cast this spell is Air 4, and the total cost of it is 75 air gems. So, it's okay. You get a 7 path mage, but I don't know if it's be more worth getting like elemental royalty like the Air Queen and stuff like that. But you have an Air 4, Water 2, Nature 2, Holy 3. You'll have the one of the South, which is a Fire 2, Air 4, Water 2, Holy 3. And then finally, the one of the West is Air 4, Water 2, Death 2, Holy 3. So, quite interesting units to have there. Always something to keep in mind that you have. You definitely don't want to go the whole game and like just forget about all your national spells. Of course, just keep them in mind. Yes, there are other spells than just bind beast bats. Even though you will be casting a lot or bind jaguar fiends, there are other spells you can cast too. So, pretty cool. As far as the research goes, I will switch back over to the Dominions 5 game screen, and we will look at some research targets I think you should have. As for the first research target, I really think hitting Blood 2 should be a very, very good research target for you. Usually enough you can get it very, very fast. On top of that, you're able to get Bind Shadow. No, not Bind Shadow. It's you get Sabbath Master and Sabbath Slave, while also getting Summon Imps, which are a powerful spell for you in the beginning. And then going up to level 2, having your Sacreds that you're already able to summon is very, very nice. And that's just kind of a first thing you can go after. But because you're able to get a decent amount of slaves in the beginning with your hunters, probably after that point, I'd want to go for Construction 4 to get Sanguine Dowsing Rod, so you're able to search better. But you have a strong argument for either going Construction 4 versus going Blood 2 first. So it's really up to you in the end. Other than that, after going Construction 4, I would definitely focus on going farther down and at least getting to Blood 4 here, because you'll get Bind Jaguar Fiends, which will give you your Ocelotos. And there is also a really, really good spell that you might want to cast here, being Bloodlust. And now this is going to give all the demons +4 strength, which will make them hit very, very hard. So it will give all of your Ocelotos, all your Beast Bats, your Ankis, and other units like that. Yes, it won't happen to your Zots, but giving all of your sacred units that are, or all your summonable sacred units +4 strength is going to make them hit very, very hard. And this is a very, very good spell for you to cast. I mean, just one Blood Slave is not bad at all. So keep in mind that you have that. As far as, so basically enough, the first two research goals would be Construction 4 and Blood 4. It's up to you on how you want to hit those. If you want to hit Blood it's first, I would probably go to Blood 2 if you were doing that, and then hit Blood 4 after you hit Construction 4. But that's just a personal thing. And then as your final research goal, I really think you have a strong reason to go for Enchantment 5, giving you a Horde of Skeletons. On top of that, you also have a few decent spells that you can cast on the way up there, like Twiceborn if you want to try to save your Anarchies if you're throwing them into battle and stuff like that. You could, well, you really have no reason to cast Flaming Arrows. You don't want to cast any of this stuff. Honestly enough, it might just be you wanting to get to Horde of Skeletons. I think that's going to be your best spell up into this point here. I mean, I'm sure you find other purposes for other things like that, but Horde of Skeletons is going to be a very, very nice spell for you to cast. And then, I mean, we already went over the Conjuration spell, so you have a reason to go into Conjuration eventually. But most of your summons are going to be in Blood here. So quite interesting. So as far as the goals go, like I'll go over them again. Construction 4, Blood 4, Enchantment 5. I'd probably go Enchantment 5 last. But that's just my own opinion on it, guys. Definitely do what you want, do what you think is best. This was just, I had no intention of doing expansion tonight, so I didn't do a bless on this at all. But I will be going over a bless and other things and certain pretenders that you can take when I hit the expansion guide. But like I said, probably going to be coming out tomorrow, if not the next day. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.